Hello, my friends. Well, it's a brand new week, and that means brand new opportunities. It was kind of a cloudy, dreary weekend here where I am, but that's okay. Silver lining was lots of basketball on this weekend, so I filled my time watching some basketball and did some reading too. I'm continuing with my reading. I did a video last week talking about a certain aspect of the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Well, I finished it, I think I finished it Friday, finished it Thursday or Friday, and there was one more section in there that just really grabbed me, really spoke to me personally, and it was about happiness, and it was about choosing happiness, and it was about deciding to making unconditional happiness your default mode. And this is stuff that I had kind of drifted away from. You know, I've gotten into some bad mind patterns since I've been back in the United States this past 6 years. And this is something that I knew 11 years, 12 years ago, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm going to read just a couple of quick passages here, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. And I think it'll make it a little bit more clear, because sometimes when people hear about being happy regardless, it can actually make them a little bit mad, especially if they're struggling with things. Because, hey, if you got a diagnosis, God forbid, today that your kid had cancer or something horrible like that in your world, you'd look at me like, you need to just shut your mouth. You know, this is ridiculous. Who's going to be happy in these circumstances? And a lot of times when we're talking about happiness, I like to use the word, sometimes happiness even throws me a little bit. And I like to kind of substitute that with being content with accepting. It's really just about accepting reality. When we accept reality, we're going to be happier than we are when we just try to, just ignore it. Because reality is right there, and it'll slap you whether you want to hear about it or not. So I'm not talking, and I'm definitely not talking to what you see a lot of, especially on social media these days, is this toxic positivity. Just this love and light, everything's going to be okay. I'm not talking about suppressing your feelings. I'm not talking about not feeling your emotions. Of course we are. When terrible things happen to us, we're human. We're going to respond. But I'm just like, I remember this, and I remember when I was stronger in this mindset. And anyhow, I'll let Michael Singer say it, because he says it a lot better than I do. That's why it seems like any condition you create will limit your happiness. You simply aren't going to be able to control things and keep them the way you want. Things are going to happen. So you have to give an unconditional answer. If you decide that you're going to be happy from now on for the rest of your life, you will not only be happy, you will become enlightened. Unconditional happiness is the highest technique there is. You don't have to learn Sanskrit or read any scriptures. You don't have to renounce the world. You just have to really mean it when you say that you choose to be happy. And you have to mean it regardless of what happens. This is truly a spiritual path, and it is as direct and sure a path to awakening as could possibly exist. And don't get tripped up on the words awakening and that kind of stuff. It's just like to a world of fulfillment and contentment. Once you decide you want to be unconditionally happy, something inevitably will happen that challenges you. Always does, and I'll tell you my personal experience in a little bit. This test of your commitment is exactly what stimulates spiritual growth. In fact, it is the unconditional aspect of your commitment that makes this the highest path. It's so simple. You just have to decide whether or not you will break your vow. When everything is going well, it's easy to be happy. But the moment something difficult happens, it's not so easy. You tend to find yourself saying, but I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't think I'd miss my flight. I didn't think Sally would show up at the party wearing the same dress that I had on. I didn't think that someone would dent my brand new car 1 hour after I got it. Billions of things could happen that you haven't even thought of yet. The question is not whether they will happen. Things are going to happen. The real question is whether you want to be happy regardless of that happens. And then I've got one other section here, and it's talking about like, let's say you were locked up for something you didn't do, a crime you didn't commit, and part I had highlighted was, as difficult as that sounds, what's the benefit of not being happy? If you're totally innocent and they lock you up, you might as well have fun. You're locked up anyway. What good does it do to not have fun? Doesn't change anything. In the end, if you stay happy, you win. Make that your game and just stay happy no matter what. And like I say, that word happy will rub some people the wrong way. I'll tell you my experience. I've talked about it before, but I don't think I've talked about it in a good while. This was in the summer of 2013. So I'm coming up on 11 years. This summer will be 11 years. And I got locked up down in Panama in Central America. I got locked up for 3 weeks in immigration down there. I wasn't running anything or no criminal organization. I just did a couple of stupid things with my passport. But anyhow, till I got that straightened out. And it took me a while. I was locked up for 3 weeks in Panama. Some people would panic at that. They get thoughts of locked up abroad. Now, so I can put this aside, this wasn't a dangerous situation. It was not like where you were fighting, to to keep people off of you, this and that. It was immigration, so everybody knew they were going to eventually get cleared and get out, and they didn't want to make their problems any worse. But it was still being locked up. I slept on an army cot for 3 weeks in just a big dormitory-sized room. It was loud in there all the time. There was noise in there all the time, even at 3 o'clock in the morning. The food was quality food. It just wasn't stuff that I ate. And I didn't eat near enough. I didn't eat near enough while I was there. I starved most of the time I was there. I fasted for 8 days, and then there were fringes around there where I ate very little. And yeah, but I remember getting in there like the first day, and everybody, there were new people in there, and you'd be stressed out. And yeah, I was stressed out. I wasn't like totally zen, just sailing right through it. But I remember I had been, meditating at the time, and I was kind of on a path at that time where I was really, starting to learn these things. And I just chose to be happy that day. And I got talking to people in there. I got to know a few people in there. And one of them was this big, heavyset guy and we just called him Cuba. He was from Cuba, so we called him Cuba. And we would get talking. We got talking. Over the course of 3 weeks, we weren't like super close friends. We haven't kept in touch. And, it wasn't like there was this huge connection, but we talked a lot, and we enjoyed talking to each other, and I think he enjoyed talking to me. I know I enjoyed talking to him. And the first few days we'd talk, and I would tell him, like, he would see that, oh, you're locked up and there's nobody else like you in here. I was the only North American. No, there was a Canadian in there, and he just was like, we got talking about, I told him, yeah, I'm okay, I'm happy. He goes, what do you mean you're happy? You're locked up in here. And I said, yeah, but I don't have any choice. I'm locked up in here. There's nothing I can do about it right now. So what should I do? Just sit here and be miserable, not knowing how long I'm going to be in here? And he still couldn't process this quite, and he would bust my balls a little bit, pardon my language. And then for several days, I remember that first week I was there, he would come by where my cot was, because he was well known in there. He played chess with a lot of people. He had been in there for a while. He had his problems were a little bit more complicated, so he'd been there for a while. And every time he would walk by my cot, he would just look over at me and he'd go, "Hey, you still happy boy?" I'd be like, "Yeah, Q, I'm still happy." And he did this day after day until finally he stopped doing that. And I think, we didn't talk about it anymore, but I think he just kind of realized, like, yeah, this guy's serious, and he's just, I guess, basically it was making the best of a situation. I could have been all stressed out and screaming and hollering and doing this and that, only would have made it worse. And, I just that turned out, I don't know if it was because of that or if that was just part of it, but that turned out, I would not trade that experience for anything. That turned out to be one of the most significant experiences in my life, because I encountered a lot of different people, a lot of cool things, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I mean, what really is the alternative? Something happens to you, it's already happened to you. However you respond is not going to take it away. So, you know, if you're fighting against it, that just causes more disruption inside of our psyche, inside of our body, inside of everything. So just think about that a little bit. And I definitely recommend this book, The Untethered Soul. In fact, as soon as I finished it, I went and ordered another Kindle, which I'm reading right now, which is Living Untethered, which is a continuation also by Dr. Michael Singer. So anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you here again in a day or so. Peace.